Welcome to Activate Your Introvert, the weekly radio show to uncover and unlock the intrapreneurial skills in your business. In this week's show, Introvert Myth of the Week: Introverts are unemotional. Tip of the Week: Christmas gifts for your introverts. And a discussion with John Hotowka. John is a resilience speaker and trainer who helps organisations improve their team's resilience, boosting performance and mental well-being. Just before speaking to John, some thoughts about you as a leader. You'd be very unusual and unlucky not to have introverts in your team. As a regular listener to the show, you know that managing people differently in your team is good for team performance. Here's a festive question for you. Have you ever thought about introverts at Christmas? Parties, social gathering, more noise, more disruptions, more displays of emotions. Even in a remote working and Zoom Christmas party environment, many of these issues still occur. So here's some Christmas presents you could give to your introverts to improve your team's performance. Recognition. Some of your team may be introverts that hide in plain sight. They may adopt more outgoing behaviours as they know many people expect it. Recognising this could allow you to manage them differently. You might start with letting them know you appreciate their introversion, or just allowing them to realise you understand. Understanding. We all like to feel appreciated. Many introverts don't like being criticised or judged for not always wanting to socialise. Give the gift of understanding by considering their social energy, rather than commenting on them not always wanting to socialise. Leaving early. Introverts like to party and socialise. However, they have limits. Self-aware introverts might want to leave the virtual party earlier than others. Not because they're antisocial, not because they're disinterested in business, but because their people energy is depleted. Just don't make it a big thing. And finally, the gift of time. Normally when I speak to leaders about the gift of time, I'm referring to agendas and getting data out in time for meetings. But one of the biggest things your introverts need at this time of year is the gift of time, so they can recover from socialising. Remember, introverts recharge spending time alone. 2020 has been very odd, and it's given many people benefits or disbenefits of working from home. Alone time can help there, but back-to-back Zoom celebrations can quickly drain that energy. Do let me know what tip you'd like to help you activate the intrapreneurial skills in your business, or what introvert myth you'd like exposed. Drop me an email, give me a call, or add it as a comment to your review on the iTunes store. I'd love to hear from you. But now, it's time for the discussion with John. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to be here, John.
It's brilliant to actually finally catch up. Of course, I want to talk about resilience and what it is. Just before we dive into that, are you an introvert or an extrovert? And probably more importantly, what does that mean to you?
I think I am both. At one point, I would have said to you, put me in a forest on my own, and as long as I've got food and drink and a roof over my head, I'll be fine. I'm very happy in my own company. Since it's been enforced that we're all living isolated in a forest,
that made a difference? Yeah.
I found that is not true. It is true to the degree I can spend a lot of time on my own, and I'm happy being on my own, and I get my energy from being quiet and silent. But I also need people. I also need that human contact. So I'm an introvert, but I'm also an extrovert, because as a speaker, when I'm on stage, strangely enough, it's like I'm a jack in the box. So I'm in the box, Mr. Introvert, and then the lights go on, the microphone is switched on, and boing, the box opens and out I pop, and I'm in showbiz mode.
Two really interesting things in that. The first is, I remember having this discussion right from the beginning of when lockdown began, how many people were saying to me, introverts must be loving this lockdown, they're locked away. And I've said to loads of people, that's complete rubbish. We
Yeah.
might get our energy from spending time alone. Doesn't mean we don't crave social contact in the same way as everyone else does. We're human beings. We need
Absolutely.
that contact. We just need it differently. But
Yeah.
I think the other thing you mentioned was that boing as you get up on stage. And again, there's that myth that people that like being on stage are extrovert, and it's just wrong.
Well, if you think about it, when we're on stage, we're really alone because there's an
Ooh.
audience in front of us, but we're on our own. We interact with the audience, we talk to the audience, we might come up with jokes or whatever it might be, and we get a reaction from the audience. But ultimately, we are alone. It's not like a one-to-one conversation with an individual.
Fascinating thought. Never thought of it like that. Thank you. I want to come back to important subjects. What is resilience?
I think there are two aspects to resilience. One is the ability to bounce back from an adversity or a setback. And the other aspect of resilience is the ability to keep going forward, to keep on stepping up and stepping onwards, no matter what is thrown at you, no matter how hard things get.
Okay. I don't know if it's just me, but I hear a lot more about it nowadays. Has it just become trendy? Has it always been important?
Resilience has been around forever. Okay, when the word resilience was coined, I have no idea, but it's certainly been around for a few centuries. It must have been.
And is it more important nowadays? Not just lockdown, but even in 1 BC, 1 year before COVID, was it important then? And is it more so because of, I don't know, society is more stressful nowadays? Do you think? Or?
Well, I can only guess what it was like in 1 BC because I may look a little elderly, but and I may have wisdom of that age, but I wasn't around in those days. But I'm guessing that resilience, it was different because there are always challenges that we have. In fact, life is a challenge. Life does not reward or punish people. It just is. Things happen to us. We make decisions. Some decisions are good decisions, and some decisions are not so good decisions. And the thing is, there's a lot of bad things happening to good people. So resilience, I think, has been around for a long, long while. So back in the Stone Age days, I'm guessing resilience is, am I going to be eaten alive by a dinosaur? Then I've got to watch out for that. Whereas nowadays, our adversities and setbacks and challenges are a little more different. In fact, I think a lot of our challenges nowadays are probably non-existent because we worry about things that might happen instead of worrying about the things that are actually happening or that will happen.
Very interesting. Do you think that it's something which introverts suffer more from or need more of than extroverts, or vice versa? Do you think there's any difference at all in that?
I'm not sure. I think, right, we all need to be resilient. I think people manage and deal with, their resilience in different ways and manage adversity in different ways and their challenges in different ways. Whether it's just introverts that need a certain way of operating and then extroverts need another way of operating, I'm not too sure about that. I think my guess is that it's probably about the same.
No,
it's down to the individual.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting when you said about how we think about things rather than things that might happen. And I wonder if that was more of a reflective thing, which might be more. I have no idea.
Well, no, I think you're probably right, because I think with introverts, I know that when I'm in my introvert mode, so I'm at home being normal John, then I am more reflective. I do pause. I do meditate a lot. When I'm out on stage, when I'm out socializing, then it's more showbiz John. I'm putting on an act to a degree. It's still me. It's just an exaggerated version of me.
What do people need to do to become more resilient?
I think there's quite a few things that people need to do. One thing is, I think we need to be aware that we are emotional creatures and we must not suppress our emotions. I will not go into the science of this because this is a very short podcast. We need to express our emotions. It's important that we do not suppress our emotions. So if you're the type of person who needs to laugh if you're in distress, then laugh. If you're the type of person who cries, then cry. If you're that type of person that gets angry, then get angry. The thing is, do not, if you get angry, don't get angry. Don't take it out on a particular person. If you need to cry, if you're feeling overwhelmed, okay, don't do that in public. Right, suppress that if you're in public. But if you're in a quiet place and you're alone and it's private, then let that feeling out. You've got to express your feelings.
Okay. I'm just thinking about it slightly now then. If I was an introvert and needing to boost my resilience, is there one quick tip that you could add to that?
I think when it comes to boosting our resilience, there are several things that we need to do together. But if I was to say one thing, to give you one thing to do, I think the best tip would be to take time out, to have me time. And the clues that we need to have me time, and this me time, quality me time, could be for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour if you can. Every day if you possibly can, at least 2 or 3 times a week. And the clues that we need this me time in the midst of all chaos is in virtually every discipline in life. So if you think about it, if you are religious, there's prayer. If you're spiritual, there's meditation. If you're a Quaker, there's stillness. If you're agnostic, there's reflection. And if you're suffering from stress and you go to the doctor, there's a good chance they might just prescribe mindfulness. What do all these things have in common?
Taking time out.
Exactly.
I like
Being
that.
quiet and alone.
So you work with organisations, and quite probably, if I think about most organisations I work with, there are leaders who are not introverts, and they are leading people that are introverts. Is there something they can do to help those introverts with their resilience?
Awareness.
Yes.
So if they see that, if they know that somebody in their team is an introvert, maybe periodically just check in with them and saying, all right, how are we doing? Are you okay? But instead of just saying, how are we doing? You're okay. The answer is going to be, I'm fine. But then the next question has to be, no, how are you really doing?
Like that, yeah.
Are you okay? Yeah. So I think it's going to be repeated twice. Because the first time we all say, yeah, I'm fine, I'm doing great.
And we all know what fine means, yeah.
Exactly. But if someone goes, no, but how are you really doing? And I think that's great from the leader's point of view because it shows caring, it shows sensitivity. And I think that would also help not only the introvert, but even the extroverts in the team. But the way it would help the employees is that they know that they're in a caring team, that the leader cares.
Really important, yeah. John, that's fascinating. Really quick discussion, as you said. We could go on for hours. How can people get back in touch with you?
Physically, please. We're in the middle of lockdown, please.
Absolutely.
Somebody
knock on your door.
Actually, I've just realised that sounds so wrong in so many levels. Somebody touch me. But anyway, right. So if my website is www.hotowka.co.uk. So Hotowka is HOTOWKA.co.uk. That all connects with me on LinkedIn.
I'll put that on the sleeve note.
And mention that you heard this podcast.
That's fantastic. John, thank you so much. It's been great to talk.
It's been a pleasure and it's been great talking to you. Thank you once again for inviting me. All the best, John.
And now it's time for Introvert Myth of the Week. Those crazy stories that I hear and you hear, but some people actually believe. Introverts are unemotional. Although as a child I may have idolised Mr. Spock, let's be honest, I still love Star Trek now, he was a Vulcan, not an introvert. Introverts might not be into big public displays of emotion, but that's very different. Do you remember 15 years ago this week when there was an oil terminal explosion on the edges of London? The explosion shook homes for miles around Buntsfield. As the discussion with John says, emotions can be a problem if you don't let them out. Maybe they're not as explosive as storage depots full of petrol, but... So, picking up on John's point, introverts don't suppress your emotions. Non-introverts don't assume they don't have them or expect them to share them just like that. Thank you for listening to Activate Your Introvert, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. I'd love to see your reviews on the iTunes store. Thank you once again, and catch up with you next week.